God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her from the light, from the dark, from the sun. Hello, everybody. So welcome to the Journal Show. I am he. It is the midday connection. Baby, how y'all is? Come on in. The water is fine. Here we are. We are getting ready to educate you on a topic that you might need to know a little bit about. It is a topic, a long one, which I'm calling Trump, the Book of Judges, and the Supreme Court. Oh boy, for those of you who are nerds out there, get ready. Get you some pens and some paper, or sit down with a cup of coffee and some tea, and sit back, because this right here, for the first time on Facebook Live, I'm going to tell y'all this out of my own mouth. It's going to be long. It's going to be long. It's going to be so long I had to start it at 3 o'clock in the afternoon on a Tuesday, because it's going to be long. I'm going to try to go through this as fast as I can, and the lighting is not that great here in the office. I'm not sure why. I don't know what's going on. I think I made it worse. I don't know what to do with this here. Maybe if I shake it up, maybe it'll brighten up. I don't know. Anyway, hope I didn't make your heads ache. All right. I take a whole lot of notes on what I'm getting ready to talk about today, because it is important that you see something here. A lot of blessings to you. Lonnie Newman is doing my opening. I wrote a whole lot of notes on here, because you can go back and use this as a textbook lesson for those of you who decided not to pay any attention to politics, political science, or you didn't study U.S. history in school. It didn't matter to you. So I'm going to bring in the Constitution, right? And then I'm also going to bring up what's called the Bible, the Bible. That's the book for me. Shante Charles, blessings. I'm so glad that you're here. Now, I'm going to be reading from my mini pad here, all of the notes that I've written. It took me some hours to write it down from my memory. Some of you probably do not know that I enrolled in Bethune-Cookman College in 1985, and my master was pre-law. Why? Because I, Sir Walter, wanted to become a lawyer. I wanted to be that guy in the court saying, I object. I watched a lot of Perry Mason before all of these investigative shows came on the air in the 1990s and 2000s. I was a Perry Mason guy, okay, Matlock and all that stuff. So I began to study law. And then the Lord changed me a little bit, and I wound up getting my paper in accounting and business administration. Nevertheless, law and politics still is my love, okay? And I'm not too old to go back. Anyway, we talk about a society that's surrounding us in the world. Communism, socialism, Nazism, fascism, princes, potentates, and kings, and all of these terms and titles pop up, and dictators pop up in our history and how we study. And when we look at the imperialism attitudes that we even see in the current administration here in America as well. But I want to help you with some of the terminology that you may or may not know that you're in. It's just that it's there, and you may have to Google some of these terminologies and to define them to decide what is America, because we have always been considered a republic, and some consider us a democratic republic, and we see it in the Constitution. We see it in the preamble. We see it when we were in school, and we said, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic. Blessings to you, Rocky Blasting Game, longtime boyhood friend. And to the republic for which it stands. Okay? One nation under God. Blessings to you, Johnson Burke. All right? And so I'm going to talk about monarchy, anarchy, aristocracy, and things like that, because it's important that you know where we are and where we're going. Monarchy, as you know, is a form of government in which the ruling power is in the hand of one person, but there is no such government like that today, believe it or not, even though we see North Korea and we see other places where there's like a dictatorship. But monarchy, no. Anarchy is without government. In a state of anarchy, everyone must be armed, and that's why every time there's a shooting on one side, you see the conservatives talk about you gonna have to snatch this gun from my stiff hand, all right? And because then they always bring up this term, this word anarchy, a state of anarchy. The Greek says that without law there can be no freedom. And so the children of the corn would be a great example. Russia's Lenin, or the brown shirts of Germany under Hitler. That would have been considered an anarchy situation. Aristocracy is the form of government advocated in Plato's, those of you who know anything about him, that let's call Plato's Republic. All right? And I think we could talk about democracy. Democracy is the rule of the people, or the majority rule, and people think that that's what we are. Demos means people, and Crotian it means to rule. The people rule. The flaw in democracy is that the majority cannot be restrained. Charles Jones, they cannot be restrained. If more than half can be persuaded, more than half, then they rule. All right? So in democracy, the lower class grows bigger and bigger, and the poor become the winners. That ain't happening here. That's why I said we're not a democracy. The diversity becomes supreme, and people are free to do whatever they want to do, live however they want to live, and people can even break the laws if they want to. And this appears to be a very similar to anarchy. All right, so the word democracy, watch this, do not appear in the Declaration of Independence, nor in the Constitution. The founders did everything they could possibly do to keep us from democracy. All right? Because democracy means, pretty much says, the mob rules. And then comes anarchy, and then comes tyranny, and then comes what's called oligarchy. Oh, I'm getting ready to go there. It's so important that you understand this. Tyranny is another form, a form of government in which ruling power is in the hands of people who have seized control. We see the word a coup pop up a lot over in foreign territories. Democracy then degenerates into tyranny, where no one has discipline or society exists, and it's chaos and it's a mess, all right? Another form is called the republic. It's Latin, republic, or that's res, meaning a thing, and publica means public. Publica, res, thing, republic, okay? The law is what that is. The government is limited by law, which leaves the people alone. The Romans built the republic. The Roman Empire was a republic. Sometimes they call it the New Roman Empire. Rome became wealthy, but the people forgot that the essence of freedom is the proper limitations of government. And this is what the Republican Party today is trying to establish. The limitations of government. When government gets bigger, the freedom of the people recedes. And once the government creates subsidies and aids the people begin to rely on the government for more and more, the Democratic Party. Understand? And therefore, the people traded freedom for their security. That is a republic. So Rome fell because they went from a republic to a democracy, and then they ended up it being an oligarchy under the progressiveness or progression of a man called Caesar. Man, I'm trying to tell y'all, this is so important. So what is America? Is America a monarchy, an anarchy, an aristocracy, democracy, republic? It's no, none of those. I believe with my heart of hearts that America is an oligarchy. Y'all still with me? Good. Oligarchy is a form of government in which ruling power is in the hands of a few leaders. A few leaders. the most common form of government is oligarchy. The most common, and most of the nations of the world are ruled by the power of just a few. And a new study jointly conducted by Princeton and Northwestern University say that America is no longer a democratic republic. All right. The U.S. government now represents the rich and the powerful, not the average citizen. So, United Press International reported special interest groups and the wealthy, they are the ones that run America. You got it? Now, that's the breakup of where we are today. Now, why I brought that up, because it's so important for you to understand some of the things that are getting ready to happen in your generation. Now, Trump, the book of Judges, and the Supreme Court. All right, this is so important. The Supreme Court, we call it the SCOTUS. All right, SCOTUS. And there are facts about the Supreme Court that many of us don't know about. We really don't care about the Supreme Court, because when we vote for local people, because politics is local. That's what we felt was the case. It was coined by one of the secretaries of states. I'm trying to remember which one was it, but politics is not local anymore. I do not believe. Roughly 8,000 cases are submitted to this Supreme Court. 8,000 cases are submitted, but only 80 cases are accepted in the Supreme Court. Only 80. That says something. 1% of all the cases that are submitted to that board, only 1% of them are received and accepted and discussed. And many cases, the rulings are, we have no ruling. The federal court system consists of about 3 layers. Understand that. There's the lower courts, that's the district courts, and then you have the circuit courts. All right, and you hear these courts, you hear the names a lot, and you just don't know what it is. So I'm gonna help you. There's the small courts, the district, and then there are the circuit courts. There's a few of them. There's 11 that we know of. District courts, 11 circuit courts. There's 11 of them, but then the court of D.C., the D.C. circuit is number 12. That one I need you to pay close attention. Put a pin on that one. And then there's a federal circuit court makes up the 13th court. All right, that's of the circuit. So there's the district court. There are the 13 circuit courts, and then, bam, the big guy, the Supreme Court justice, all right? Justices of the Supreme Court. Now, in order for you to get a case in there, though, you have to petition the court by issuing what's called a writ of certiorari. Certiorari is the proper pronunciation of it, or what they call a writ of cert. Good luck with that, all right? Back up. During the Obama administration, 1 hour after the death of Anthony Scalia, remember him, Mitch McConnell said these words: "They will not hear Obama's selection." Mitch McConnell blocked it. He says, "We will not hear the case." Pay close attention to that, because what he said would reign for years to come. We can't do it because he is a lame duck president. And the lame duck president should not have the right to select the Supreme Court, because a new administration is coming in, and the new administration will change some things, and it is improper for the lame duck to select someone. He won't even be here next year. Pay close attention, because I'm going to bring up a Supreme Court ruling that changed and altered everything for America. All right? A few hours after the hearing, though, this year, just a few weeks ago, a few hours after hearing that Justice Kennedy was resigning, the same guy, Mitch McConnell, said, "We will approve Donald Trump's nomination." Man, I don't think y'all understand what's going on here. Oh, you see the hypocrisy in America? It is important. This is politics at its best, and you got to pay close attention to what's going on. These are not men that are bipolar. No, these are not men that have mental illnesses. No, some of them probably do. No, this is a chess game that must be played, and they don't really care if the people are calling them hypocrites and manipulating. It doesn't matter. It's about winning the game. So he said to Barack Obama, no, we ain't going to listen to nobody you choose. Not going to do it. When he selected, I think his name was Merritt, okay? And then this year he says, oh, we're going to hear this man, though. Oh, man. So what's at stake here? The 14th Amendment is what's at stake here. All right. I'm not going to go there just yet. All right. Why are the justices so important in America? Okay. Here's why. One reason why is because the king wants a divorce. You're like, huh? The king wants a divorce? Yes, the king wants a divorce. Back in the 1500s, I think that might have been the year before we got this Bible here called the King James. King Henry VIII, I think his name was. He was married to, I think her name was Catherine. He ain't like her. And he wanted a seed to continue in the administration of kingship. And so he went to the Pope to see if he can get a divorce from her so that he can marry someone else. The Pope said, no. Ain't that something? Isn't it something that the king, King Henry, was considered a defender of the faith. England was ruled by Catholicism. All right, blessings to you, Lorraine. Was ruled by Catholicism. All right, and so the king, though, was a proponent, was a lover of it, and supported the Bible of the Catholics. Understand that? But now he wants a divorce, and the Pope says you can't have one. So what did the king do? The king says, so because now you're telling me I can't have one, what I'm going to do now is change the law. Oh, man, if anybody's seeing this, I got to change the law. So how did he change the law, ladies and gentlemen? He decided to pull England, separate them from the Catholic Church. And he joined forces with the Protestant Church. Oh, he did. King Henry. So that now, he's now over the Protestant Church, King Henry VIII. And then he dissolved that whole Catholicism thing, and then they began to lose their funding. Yes. And so even their parishes and their parliaments, their cathedrals and the things like that, they began to almost bankrupt these places. The king did, so that he could marry this woman. But God used that bad thing to construct a good thing, because it's because of King Henry VIII who divorced this woman and married this other woman. He also told the scribes that they can now write up the scriptures in English, the Lord's Prayer especially, and we have the English translation now, I believe, because of this separation of the king from the church. Why are the judges so important? The queen is the head of the English. Come on, the English church. Come on, Shantae, I'm so glad you're here. This is my fact checker. When she shows up, I feel safe. The king wants a divorce. Donald Trump today is the king. And there is something that he wants. And the best way he could get it is not to so much affect the executive body or to affect in some way the legislative body. It is to affect the judicial body, because it is the judicial body in whom will be in our lives for generations to come the same people. Oh, it's not like a revolving door of senators and congressmen. They are the same people. Yes, thank you, Amber Rose. Wanted to divorce Catherine of Aragon and marry Anne Boleyn or something like that. Bears Bolton, what are we talking about? We're talking about Trump, the Book of Judges, and the Supreme Court. All right. Now, Donald Trump is only being used as a puppet to get the real dangerous people in power. You see, the office of the presidency can stir up some issues worldwide. Absolutely. It sure can. The laws of the land are not governed by the world. All right? The Constitution of the United States don't have to be upheld by England or France or Czechoslovakian. No, it's all about the land. The president, yes, influenced what's going on around the world, but the Supreme Court influenced what's going on in America because they have one job. Oh, man, I don't think I'll get this. So they are immediate, can be the most immediate dangerous people in America. Now, God planned this out, though, 30 years ago with a man by the name of Robert Bork. Y'all can Google his name and see who I'm talking about. Ronald Reagan selected him, nominated him as a Supreme Court Justice, 1987. Shantae says the office is a figurehead for the true powers. Come on, Shantae. Charles, didn't I just tell you? You had me at hello, okay? I get no respect, all right? And that's what's happening here, all right? 30 years ago, Robert Bork, all right? God chooses judges. The aspect of kings is not God's intent. That was not his choice. And I'm going to go to the scriptures to prove it to you. God's choice was judges. When God chose Moses, he didn't make him king. God chooses judges and prophets to speak for him. When Moses died, God gave the people someone that Moses had prepared. That man was Joshua. I'm going to go there in a minute because I got a lot of information here. The Republicans today are in power of Congress, and they have a slight majority, not a large, overwhelming one, just a slight one, and they will get 3 judges in that Supreme Court who will do their bidding. Remember Richard Nixon? He appointed Warren Burger, William Rehnquist, Harry Blackmun, Lewis Powell. Y'all remember that? And there were some issues going on. I mentioned Robert Bork. Robert Bork was, I believe, a bigot. Ronald Reagan selected him, nominated him, and because they kept asking him questions, they realized this man is a bigot. Joe Hill says, "Wow, I made it to Tuesday." Y'all have to understand why he said I made it Tuesday 3 days. Well, he didn't read what I said. I'm not making any posts about religion and black folk, white folk issues. I didn't say nothing about Facebook Lives though. Why? Because the show must go on, and if I don't educate y'all on the news, then I'd be anyway. All right, so here are the current Supreme Court justices. Pay close attention to who they are and who they replaced. Are you listening to me? All right, pay close attention. Joshua Reese, blessings to you, Pastor. So honored to have you here. John Roberts, put in September 29, 2005. He is the Chief Justice. So when the President of the United States was the one that's being sworn in, he's sworn in by the Chief Justice. George Bush put this man in. Thank you, Regina Jones. She mentioned my shirt. I wanted to be colorful today. Yeah. Anyway, George Bush put this man in here, and he replaced William Rehnquist. That's who John Roberts replaced as Chief Justice. Very important. All right. Anthony Kennedy, who's the reason why we're having this mess right now, and I need y'all to know that Anthony Kennedy didn't just say, you know what, I think I'm going to retire in another couple of days. No, that was in the plan. And this new guy was in the plan. Tamara, blessings to you. Anthony Kennedy got in there in 1988. Ronald Reagan put him in there. Robert Bork, remember him? Yeah. Anthony Kennedy replaced Lewis F. Powell Jr. Very important. So Ronald Reagan nominates Robert Bork. All right. Let me give you the history here. For the Associate Justice, it was on my birthday of all days, July the 1st, 1987, to replace retired Lewis Powell. All right. A hotly contested United States debate over Bork's nomination ensued. Opposition was partly fueled by civil rights and women's rights groups concerned about Bork's opposition to the authority claimed by the federal government to impose standards of voting fairness upon the states. At his confirmation hearing for the position of Solicitor General, he supported the rights of southern states to impose what's called a poll tax. Y'all remember the poll tax? Anybody out there, raise your hand. You remember poll tax? And his stated desire to roll back civil rights decisions of Warren and Burger courts. Y'all remember Chief Warren and Chief Burger, all right? Bork was one of only 3 Supreme Court nominees, along with William Winecrest and Samuel Alito, ever to be opposed by the American Civil Liberties Union. I'm trying to tell y'all, it was a mess. And it was because of Bork we get Anthony Kennedy. Anthony Kennedy served all these years because God let him be in that office to set us up for a Donald Trump administration. I don't think y'all getting this. You're going to get it eventually. If you don't get it, your kid's going to get it. The next guy in office is Clarence Thomas. Who put him in there? George H.W. put him in office. Nominated him. He was confirmed. 1991. Remember the whole hair on the coke situation with Anita, what's her name? Not Anita Baker. Not her. Okay? Anyway, he replaced the great man. When you say his name, you got to salute. The great Thurgood Marshall. That man right there. Then in 1993, Bill Clinton put Ruth Bader Ginsburg. He nominated her. She won, and she took on Byron White's position. Bill Clinton also put in Stephen Breyer in 1994, who replaced Harry Blackmuth. George W. Bush had to replace Sandra Day O'Connor, and he selected Samuel Alito in 2006. The great Barack Obama replaced David Souter, that is, with Sonia Sotomayor in 2009. Barack Obama also replaced John Paul Stevens in 2010 with Elena Kagan. And the great Donald Trump put in a replacement of Antonio Scalia by the name of Neil Gorsuch last year in 2017. Yes, Anita Hill, Dolores Green, thank you. Now, John Roberts, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Clarence Thomas, all of them served on the D.C. Circuit Court. All of them. Guess who else served in the D.C. Circuit Court? Merrick Garland. Merrick Garland was the one who was denied even them listening to him in any hearings because it was blocked by the Republican Party through your brother I mentioned earlier. None of this is a coincidence. None of it. The D.C. Court, remember I said earlier in the show, pay attention to the D.C. Court? Keep paying attention to it. Trump nominates a new Supreme Court justice last night. His name is Brett Kavanaugh, and he currently teaches at Harvard and Yale and Georgetown, I believe. Who is he? Well, here is his stats. He's a judge of U.S. Courts of Appeal for the D.C. Circuit Court. Y'all ain't catching this. Since 2006, he served in the Bush White House, 2001 through 2006, associate counsel to, very important point, He is the associate counsel, he was, to Kenneth Starr. Anybody remember him? Kenneth Starr, and helped draft the impeachment against Bill Clinton. Everything that's happening in politics, y'all, is not a coincidence. All this stuff is painstakingly planned out. Now, what I just said about the impeachment hearings is very important to who this man is today. Understand why Donald Trump selected this man. Okay. So he was the man on the campaign to get rid of Bill Clinton. All right. Now, he's also a law clerk to the Justice Anthony Kennedy. Oh, wait, hold up. He was the law clerk to the very man who retired. He was a law clerk in 1993. Yeah, graduated from Yale Law School, 1990. He was born in February 12, 1965. He and I are pretty much the same age. Yeah. Brett Kavanaugh made 300 decisions. He have a massive paper trail, y'all. Massive. And so what's getting ready to happen is, pay close attention, students. Watch this. The Republican Party is going to do their best to try to rush this man through the hearings. Rush him really quickly. Why? Because he's got 300 decisions to go through, and some of his decisions are controversial. Ooh. All right. He have a strong opinion. Here's his strongest controversial point, yeah? He have a strong opinion that the President of the United States should not be the subject of any criminal investigation. Is this tying into anybody? I know it's dark in the room, y'all, but it's going to brighten up in a minute. Anybody getting this? Can anybody see the planned out act? Okay? He said in the statement, he says, a president should not be exempt shouldn't be exempt from time-consuming and distracting investigations. Okay? He says, listen, while he's in office, leave him alone. Leave him alone. Now, this was not a court decision, okay? It's not a court decision. This is an opinion of him. Says, leave him alone. All right. Now, if it will cause too much distraction, he need to do his job. I don't care what he did. Leave him alone. Now watch this. Even though he was trying to impeach Bill Clinton in the 90s, this same man says, oh, I changed my mind. I don't think y'all getting this. Where did this man come from, and how did things change? It's called the Conservative Federalist Society. It's called the Federalist Society, and they are a bunch of conservatives who pretty much put together a list of candidates who could possibly sit in one of those 9 seats of the Supreme Court justices. White House lawyer Don McCann gave Trump 25 possible justices, and he narrowed them down to about 4. All right. I knew he wasn't going to pick that woman. I knew he wasn't going to pick her. My own opinion. So what is the Supreme Court? The Supreme Court of the United States is the highest ranking judicial body in the United States. Its membership, as set by the Judicial Act of 1869, pay close attention to the Judicial Act. There's 2 of them. There's one in 1869, and there's one that happened in the 1700s that's going to be a very important part of a proceeding that happened. It consists of Chief Justices of the United States and 8 Associate Justices. Now, they all do not have to be there in office in order for a ruling to come forth. Any 6 of whom would consist of what's called a quorum. A quorum. Any 6, even though 9 are put on the bench to kind of tip things so that you won't have somebody got to break the tie. You can't have 10 on there. You got to, You got to tip it a little bit, all right? It's not like Jesus' 12 disciples. No. Because they ain't trying to make no decisions based on yada yada. No, because they all believe the same thing. That's a whole nother story. Justices let's see, where am I? Justices are nominated by the President of the United States and appointed after confirmation. We get that. Justices have life tenure, and the chief gets $255,000, and the rest of them get a measly piece of $244,000 per year. That's all. Now, let's talk about the Constitution first. This is the Constitution of the United States. All right? This is an important document. Somebody is set up. The Constitution established a group of people, all of these branches supposed to respect this Constitution, but there's only one branch that have the sole reason of interpreting it. The rest of them can move around it a little bit, and they are not placed on, they're not judged according to how they treat the document as much as this other group is. In the book of Timothy, I think 1 Timothy talked about, he that desires the office of a bishop desires a good thing. And it talked about the position of this man. I said man because at that time he had to be the husband of one wife. That's another fight for another day. And it talked about liquor. He said he is not to drink wine. As you go further down, it talked about the deacon. And it said, but to the deacon, he is not to drink much wine. Oh, it's just, the Bible can be so accommodating act sometimes. Say, listen, this guy right here, he don't drink none. This right here, he drink a little bit, but he can't be drunk. I'm getting ready to talk about the three branches because it's important. What's the difference between the executive and the judicial, though? Let's focus on those two right there. What is the position and the difference between the judicial and the executive? You see, what's happening today is that the executive is trying to give, you keep seeing the word imperial. The executive is trying to create laws. Now look at the original document. It's probably the best document in the world. It has some flaws, but it's the best document, I think, in the world, the Constitution in the world. It's not the most perfect, but I think it's the best in the world. Every jot and tittle, all right? Even though we got some issues with slavery in there, and what is a man, what is a black man, opposed to what is a white man, all right? And we got some issues there as well, but I still believe it is the best document in the world right now. That last POTUS who did not appoint a Supreme Court judge was Carter. Before him, you have to go all the way back to Andrew Johnson. The POTUS you elect or the one you don't by not showing up has ramifications lasting 30 to 40 years. Not just, come on, man, Joe Hill, you all up in my notes. Yes, sir. Yes, sirree. All right. The president takes an oath. He takes the oath on a Bible. And watch this. He don't take an oath on the Constitution. He don't put his hand on the Constitution to raise his right hand. He do not. They give him a Bible. What's that? Something to that. Yeah. The president takes an oath of office. All right? Now, how can we relate that to positions of what the branches are as it pertains to the position of a husband and wife? The executive, legislative, and judicial branches are husband and wife. They are equal, yet independent. They are checks and balances. One is not more powerful than the other, even though the executive branch feels like they're more powerful, especially with the administration we have today. They act like they're more powerful until one checks them and put them back down. It's a marriage. I think a husband and wife have what I call likewise ministries. Oh, Lord have mercy. Hey, y'all can go ahead and put that in the comments there. Husband and wives have what's called likewise ministries. You're like, what's a likewise ministry? Well, you go to 1 Corinthians chapter 7 and 4, it talks about having the authority over the body. A husband have authority over the wife's body. That's it. That's not it. Because likewise, the wife have authority over the husband's body. Yeah. If you go to 1 Peter 3 and 7, it say, likewise, husbands, dwell with them according to knowledge. But then y'all say, but it also says that the woman is a weaker vessel. She sure is. She's weaker only in strength. It says, honor your wife, for she is weaker physically, but she's also, watch this, your equal partner in God's gift of new life. So the husband and wife in the kingdom is equal. Anybody? In the kingdom. Very important to understand this. You see, the United States is up under the Constitution. So as it pertains to the Constitution, these branches are equal. As it pertains to God and the richness of the spiritual kingdom, husband and wives, they're equal. Ooh, I'm in trouble. Galatians 3 and 28 says there's neither Jew, Greek, slave, free, male, or female. Love that, Shante. Shante Charles says a smart marriage has a balance of power. Ooh. This good. Stay with me, daughter. Stay. Okay, that's good stuff. So these branches. Now watch this. Very important. So the president takes an oath. There are a lot of men who don't believe that and are taught opposite of that. That's right. That's why they say, I'm the king of this castle. I'm the high priest of this home. No, you can't be the high priest of the home. Now, you just put yourself in Jesus' seat. Because if you're the high priest, then who is Jesus? Ooh, we in trouble. We in trouble. You are a priest in your home, but you ain't the high priest. Because now you're saying, ain't nobody above me. So, before he enter on the executive of the office, the execution of the office, he shall take the following oath of affirmation. This is what the president have to do. Pay close attention. Pay close attention. He says, I do solemnly swear or affirm that I will faithfully execute the office of the president. Thank you, Shante. Joint heirs. There it is. Ooh, Lord. Didn't I tell you I was glad you was here? I ain't repeating that no more on this show. I do solemnly swear that I will faithfully execute the office of the President of the United States and, watch this, and will the best of my ability. Why did they have to put that there? Because he's the deacon of Timothy. He's not the bishop of Timothy. He's the deacon. He says, and to the best of my ability, preserve. Hold on to it. Protect it. Weaker vessel, put it in a vase. See, the wife is a weaker vessel, and she is a weaker vessel because she's expensive, which makes her delicate, and if she drops, she will break and shatter. Or now she's worth less. So what a man who has a priceless piece of maybe it was carried down from eons of time, might be a family heirloom. What he does with a weaker vessel is he takes it and puts it in on the shelf up there, or he puts it behind a glass. He puts it in a glass, and you might put a lock on it, and he puts it on a shelf. Why is it up there? It's for all to see. It's priceless. He don't hide his wife. He puts her up. He don't put her on the floor under the couch so they can prop up the legs of the couch because one leg broke off. No, he puts her up there because she's priceless. She needs to be seen as precious commodity. So the President of the United States, he preserves, he protects it, and defends it. The Constitution of the United States. That's his job. Oh, but watch what the job of the other branch is, the judicial branch. Notice the wording here. The judicial branch is to interpret the law and translate them for the meaning in which they should be construed. That's why the president can play around the Constitution all he wants to. It's not his job to interpret it. He can't open it up and say, this is what it says. I'm telling you what it says. No, you close it up. You heard what it says. But the Supreme Court opens it up. It says, here's what it says. Now let me translate it for you. They are the rabbinical order. They would be considered rabbi. The judicial, yes. Wow. So what was the job of the judges in Scripture? We're going to go there in a minute. We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Those people. Do ordain and establish this Constitution of the United States of America. That preamble is the greatest. But it says, we the people. That's the Constitution. The Bible says, if my people. Oh, Lord. Lord have mercy. If. See, just because you born, don't mean you part of it. Here, if you born over here, you part of it. I don't care what you do. You can denounce it all you want to. You still we. But you born in the flesh, you ain't. We, you if. Because you got to be born all over again. Here, you're born one time. And now you we the people. That's the preamble. We get it. That's in the flesh. But we got to talk about a more perfect union. It's important. I told y'all it's going to be long. I ain't apologizing for it and because I said it. The federal convention convened in the State House called Independence Hall in Philadelphia, May 14, 1787. It's a very important year. Y'all was popping fireworks the other day because you call it the 4th of July Independence Day. Y'all keep bringing out 1776. So to revive the Article of Confederation, that's what they did. They came together to revise it. All right? Because the delegations from only 2 states was at first present, the members, they adjourned. Meetings over from day to day until a quorum of 7 states were obtained in May 25. All right? And through discussion and debate, it became clear by mid-June that rather than amend the existing articles, don't amend it, the convention would draft an entire new government, frame of government. Don't put glue and tape and all this stuff on. Don't adhesive and gawk. No, get rid of it. Start all over again. All through the summer in closed sessions, the delegates debated and redrafted the articles of the new Constitution. Among the chief points at issues were how much power to allow the central government, how many representatives in Congress to allow each state, how they represented should be elected directly by the people or by the state legislators, and the work of many minds. The Constitution stands as a most of cooperative statesmanships and the art of compromise ever there was. Ever there was. The United States Constitution established America's national government and fundamental laws and guaranteed certain basic rights for its citizens. It was signed September 17, 1787. So y'all pop your fireworks later on this year. By delegates by the Constitution Convention in Philadelphia, presided over that man, George Washington. Under America's first government document, the Articles of Confederation, the national government was weak and states operated like independent countries. They were weak. At the 1787 convention, delegates devised a plan for a stronger federal government with 3 branches. I mentioned it earlier: executive, legislative, and judicial, along with a system of checks and balances to ensure no single branch would have too much power. So, the Bill of Rights. 10 amendments guaranteeing basic individual protections such as freedom of speech and religion became part of the Constitution in 1791. And to date, there have been a total of 27 constitutional amendments. Now you've been caught up to the Constitution. I caught you up. Judicial. Here are my top 10 court rulings that changed America today. Changed America. Top 10 court rulings. Some of you heard a few of these. Some of you are totally oblivious to a couple of these. It doesn't matter. After today's show, you would have heard of them. Top 10. First one, y'all heard about it, called Bush versus Gore. Anybody remember that ruling? It was the first time that 2 people trying to sit in that seat of the Oval Office had to ask for his wife, the judicial wife, to, can you come over here and help me make this decision, because I don't know what's going on. The people voted. There's a popular vote, and then there's the college vote, but Florida has got their noses up. Like, y'all remember that year? Florida, that one guy with that big, he counting ballots and whatever. Remember that? They couldn't decide. So Bush versus Bush versus Gore, November 7, 2000. Undecided election. Florida courts wanted a recount, but the SCOTUS decided in favor of George W. Bush. That was not a coincidence. God had his hands in all of that. The second most important ruling, I think, is Obergefell versus Hodges in 2015. That is same-sex legalized marriage. Shantae, yep. You live in Florida then? Lord have mercy. Was you doing that too? Shantae, was you like, this ain't right? Same-sex marriage. Citing the 14th Amendment. Remember I said the 14th Amendment was at stake here? Remember I said it earlier in the show? Here it is. The 14th Amendment, due process and equal protection clause. Due process, y'all been hearing that for the past few weeks with these children who have been separated from their parents. Due process and equal protection clause, which in turn overturned the 1971 ruling against same-sex marriage of Baker versus Nelson. That's my second most. Now, when I say my favorite ruling, it doesn't mean that I like it, that I approve of the ruling. It just means it's my favorite because I love political science, and it's the one that I like to study and talk about. These are the ones I like to talk about the most. And I understand them. I understand why these rulings went forth. Okay? Because of the climate of America and because of who put these men and women in those black robes. Going full circle. My third famous one is the one I'm going to save for last. It's called the Marbury versus Madison. Wi-Fi went crazy. Marbury versus Madison in 1803 is my favorite one. But I put it at number 3. Because I'm going to go to number 4. I'll go back to that one. Number 4, Citizens United versus Federal Elections Commissions. That happened in 2008. Corporations and unions have the same civil or First Amendment rights as individuals. And we start seeing that. The super PACs went crazy, and they were making commercials against Hillary Clinton and whatever. She was running against Barack Obama, and it got crazy. So the SCOTUS had to get involved. And, well, Citizens United. There it is. Number 5 is New York Times versus Sullivan. 1964, an Alabama paper said something derogatory about Martin Luther King. Yes. And it turned into a big fight, and the word malice kept popping up. It's too much to go into that story. Number 6, my favorite one, is Dred Scott versus Sanford. Y'all heard of this one. All black folks should know this one. 1857. Dred Scott tried to purchase his freedom. He was in a free state. There was no slavery where he lived. But he tried to purchase his freedom, and he couldn't. The lower court said you can't. He took it to the Supreme Court, and the court said, you, as a black man, ain't no citizen. Nowhere. So you can't sue for your freedom. That was the worst ruling in SCOTUS history. It is a dark, dark, dark history in American history today. Dred Scott versus Sanford. The 7th one is United States versus Nixon in 1974. Shante says, some still believe in this ruling. They sure do. You are not a citizen of America. So, which means you're not a citizen anywhere. You are an alien. The United States versus Nixon. Nixon claimed executive privilege to do pretty much anything he wanted to do. So they said, give us the tapes, Nixon. Nixon says, I'm the president. I don't have to give you nothing. If the president do it, it is not a crime. Yeah, that right there. United States versus Nixon, 1974. Great one. Number 8 is Miranda versus Arizona, 1966. Ernesto, I think that's his name. Miranda. All you people who break the law know a whole lot about that law. That ruling, that is. The police must read you your rights. You can remain silent. And if you can't afford counsel, one will be given you. Yes. That's the Miranda versus Arizona. My 9th favorite one is Brown versus the Board of Education of Topeka. Y'all knew that I had to bring that one up. Shantae, you knew that one was coming. Board versus Brown, Brown versus the Board of Education of Topeka. 1954. Right in the middle, slap dab in the middle of the civil rights. As a matter of fact, I think she had not made a mess on that bus yet. The bus boycott, I think it happened around that time as well. It went a whole year. So that's around 1954, 1955, something around there. Anyway, it stems, actually, this ruling stems from what's called the Plessy versus Ferguson ruling. That happened in 1896. Okay, it says that they call it a separate but equal ruling. 1896. Brown says that separate but equal is a myth in education. Yes. And the Board of Education and the Brown case was taken to the Supreme Court, and they said, you're right. It has no place. Separate but equal has no place in education. My last one, number 10, is Roe. You can't not talk about Roe versus Wade and talk about important rulings. That's 1973. We already know what that is, the abortion issue. Let me go back to number 3, though. Marbury versus Madison. William Marbury versus Madison in 1803, all right? This right here ruling is my favorite. And again, when I was studying law, this hands down was definitely my favorite. Because there are two people that I want to bring out. First of all, second president of the United States. Is he second? Which one is it? James Madison. I think that's his name. Yeah. And John Marshall. These two people. All right. Pay close attention to this ruling. It's the greatest ruling of ever. working and listening, missing. Someone will come back in. Yeah. Come on, Beatrice. All right, these two. Federalists. We had a federalist nation. Congress was federalist. This was before the old Democratic Republican thing. They were federalists. All right. And James Adams was a federalist and the president of the United States. He was trying to win a second term. And, well, the poll says you ain't going to make it. His Secretary of State was John Marshall, a name that's very popular, extremely popular, especially there are a lot of John Marshall institutions and law schools, okay, what have you. John Marshall, Secretary of State. So here's what James Adams decided. He said, listen, tomorrow there will be a new president sworn in. At that time, they were swearing in presidents in March. They didn't do it in January. Understand that. And he says, listen, I'm getting ready to write up what's called commissions, and I'm going to select Supreme Court justices. Districts, circuits, Supreme Courts. I'm gonna select 44 of them suckers. They call them justices of the peace, what they call them. 44 of them, I think there are 16 other justices, right? I'm going to select these people. I'm going to write up their commission, which is a piece of paper, a writ, just pretty much proclaim that they are confirmed as judges, okay? All right, and nominated at least. And he gave it to his Secretary of State, John Marshall. Says, deliver it to all these people. Well, there were no airplanes at the time. There were no trains. There were no fast automobiles, okay? He pretty much had to get on his horse and hand deliver those suckers at night. And he couldn't do it. So he delivered it to as many as he could. All right? And then the next day, they sworn in the new president of the United States. What was his name? Thomas Jefferson. All right. Thomas Jefferson says, all right, I'm the new man in charge, and I need a new Secretary of State. And who did he select as a new Secretary of State? James Madison. You're like, why these names sound familiar? This was the beginning of our nation, y'all. These presidents who we herald as great men also served in certain and other positions. They worked their way up. But James Adams was smart. Before the new guy got in, he told his Secretary of State, listen, when this new guy come in, you won't be the Secretary of State no more. Here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make you Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. And you're going to be in there for life. What is that going to do? It's going to preserve the Federalist Party. Oh, my God. I don't think y'all understanding. This stuff happened way back then. So the new guy came in office and says, all right, I want everybody who's Federalist, get out. He fired everybody, brought in James Madison as the Secretary of State, and says, all right, we need to select some justices. Well, James Adams had already put some Federalists up in there. There's one guy who didn't get his papers, though, because remember, he was riding on his horse delivering these commissions, but he missed this one guy. What's that one guy name? Marbury. William Marbury. It says, I want mine. And the new administrator says, no, you can't have one because there's a new administration now and you didn't get it yesterday. You can't get it at all. So you cannot be a justice. What did he do? He took his case to the courts. And he says, I want a writ of mandamus. That's what it's called, a writ of mandamus. Man. And I qualify for one because of the Judicial Act of 1789. Do y'all not remember me talking about it up there, about an hour ago? I said, remember this Judicial Act of 1789? Remember I said that? Y'all remember that, right? Well, it pops up. He says, the Judicial Act of 1789 states that you can write me a writ of mandamus, and I can get my commission and sit on the Supreme Court. So the very guy who was on the horse delivering these as the Secretary of State is now the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court. Same guy who's supposed to gave him his writ, but it was too late. Now he's in the chief seat. And so he said, hey, that Marbury says, hey, bro, remember me? He said, oh, yeah, I remember you. Can I get a writ of mandamus? And John Marshall said, are you old one? Yes, you are old one. And can you come to us and ask for one freely? Yeah, you can't ask us for one. He says, unfortunately, we got a problem here. What's the problem? You know that Judiciary Act of 1789? Yeah, it's unconstitutional. Really? Yeah. Because the Judiciary Act of 1789 gives the courts more judicial jurisdiction, that is, than what the Constitution gives us in Article 3. Ooh. Article 3 says we can go only this far and we have to stop. The Judicial Act of 1789 says we can go farther, but that act is unconstitutional, so I cannot abide by that act. I must abide by the Constitution. So unfortunately, bruh, I can't give you your commission. Oh my God. I don't think y'all are understanding this. Do you know how powerful that ruling is? And it affected us today. And it's because of that ruling we have the words judicial review. It's because of that ruling. Come on, Donald Smith. I'm trying to teach. It is because of that one ruling, Marbury versus Madison in 1803. You hear on the news now all the time, judicial review. Why? Because the Supreme Court justices are the only one who have the right to open up the Constitution and give it a judicial review. No other branch have the power to do it. They interpret it. So the irony is the very guy who was getting ready to give this man his right to be a Supreme Court justice, 24 hours later, had no right to give him his commission to be a Supreme Court justice. Ain't that something? How is it possible that we are so weak as Christians and don't understand the law that is written in the pages here and allow the world to get our minds all whacked out on all these little... Sorry, my phone rang. It's probably going to ring again. I have to say, hey, I'm on live. So if it interrupts again, I'll have to say, hey, I'm on live. Okay? It's those little foxes that run around. It's the one that destroy the crop. Okay? Now, ooh-wee. In the 1800s, you had an all-Federalist Congress. Where did we send our offering? Donald Smith. You know I got a Cash App, right? It's Sir Walter J. Is my cash name. Cash App. Or just go to paypal.me/Sir Walter. Ka-ching. Okay. Anti-Federalist. A Federalist is someone who supports a strong centralized government. Thomas, how is it possible? How is what possible? A Federalist is someone who support... Oh, I get you. I know where you're asking that. About how are we Christians... Anyway, I think I get it. A Federalist is someone who supports a strong centralized government. That's what a Federalist is. That's who James Adams was. That's who John Marshall was. That's who the other presidents prior to him. That's who they were. All right. Congress was. All right. Centralized government. Back around the time that the Revolutionary War was being waged, the Constitutional Convention was taking place. I mentioned that earlier. I'm doing this in strategically this way so that you can catch it. Again, use this as a case study for what's happening today. Okay. There were legislators who were in favor of a strong centralized government, Federalists. And there were those who were in favor of a limited federal government, held accountable by its territories or its states, and they were called anti-federalists. That means limitations of government. Now, who were these federalists? John Hancock. Y'all use your pens, right? Alexander Hamilton. Oh, man, from New York. That man right there was a brilliant man. John Jay of New York. George Washington of Virginia and John Adams of Massachusetts. These were Federalists. Anti-Federalists opposed ratification of the Constitution. They said, we don't do this. And it did not constrain the federal government from abusing its power. That's what it's told. Therefore, the Bill of Rights had to be constructed. That's why we have this wonderful document that we have today, because they broke that up. All right? Now, how do we bring the scriptures in, and how do I apply this to you? Because the name of the show is Trump, the Book of Judges, and the Supreme Court. Now, I spent a lot of time on the Supreme Court Justice, and I spent time on Trump by using the executive branch as an idea of who he is. But today, right now, there is a generation that only know Barack Obama. Oh, did anybody understand that? Anybody understand that? There is a generation that only know Barack Obama. Why? They only know of a black president. They're 8 years old. All they knew was president, black man. There is a generation who will only know, up until a certain time, Donald Trump style of governing. Because they were born, as he was being sworn in, they were born, and he could possibly serve 8 years, and they will be coming up in that 8 years. Do you know how important it is to teach a child in their adolescent years? I told this story before and over again, and I think you need to understand this, that God was strategic on how he allowed Moses to escape. When Pharaoh says, it's too many of them, there is a Pharaoh that knew not Joseph. He said, kill these babies, and Moses' mama put that boy in the river. God said, and directed that wind to Pharaoh's house. And the daughter said, there's a baby in the water with a Jewish cloth. That's a Jew baby. But I sure love this baby. And took the baby out the water, and the mama, you know what she did? She returned the baby back to Moses' mama to be weaned. I don't think y'all get this. God is so strategic, to be weaned. And while Moses was in the care of his own mama, Pharaoh's daughter was paying the mama to wean this child. It's the greatest public aid system God set up. I have a baby, and my oppressor is paying me to take care of the baby. Lord have mercy. I don't think y'all getting this. And for all those years, got weaned and then returned this child back to Pharaoh's house. And he stayed in Pharaoh's house all those years. And the Bible says he was mighty man in the language of Pharaoh. Now, I know y'all say that he stuttered a lot. I get all of that, what y'all say, because he was talking to God and talked about Aaron or what have you. I get all that. There's not really any proof of him studying, okay, but I'll let y'all have fun with that. But the Bible was specific and expressive about he knew the language of the Pharaoh and the kingdom. And all those years he served under Pharaoh. But when he went away, what did he do? He went back to his people and saw one of Pharaoh's boys beating one of his people and killed that man and buried him in the sand. How can a man live most of his life in Pharaoh's kingdom but still go back to his people? Because God said, and for the first 5 years, I think it was, his mama weaned him. And he sucked the breasts of his Hebrew mama, and that got in him, and he never walked away. And that's why the scripture says, train up a child in the way he should go. And when he's old, he won't depart from the teaching. I don't think, I don't know, what am I doing here? So, choosing a Supreme Court justice affects a generation. So 3 of them getting ready to be, one was elected last year, and 2 more are coming. It will affect a generation. That's why the Supreme Court justice is more important than that guy just sitting in the Oval Office. All right. Can I say something very controversial? I heard a man say this, and so don't give me credit for it. I believe that Christianity is always one generation from destruction. I have to pause on that one. That was too heavy even for me. Christianity is one generation from destruction. Always. Yeah. America is like the book of Judges. America's remedy for its sinful act is to legalize the sin. The book of Judges. See, America is not tired of its sin. It's just tired of the pain of the sin. It's tired of the pain of it. So when black people remind white people of slavery and Jim Crow and lynchings and feeding our babies to alligators, you understand? White people may get a little red in the face and say, enough with this, because it's the pain of the sin, the memory of it. Yeah. So she don't focus on sexual purity. America don't focus on sexual purity. America focus on contraceptives. Oh man. This is too heavy for Midday Connection. I don't think is anybody understanding anything I'm saying? I told you this is going to be long. It's 1 hour and 17 minutes. America loves to sin because this is the I call it the United States of Sodom and Gomorrah. America loves to sin, all right? But then there's a pain that comes after the sin. So they don't like the pain, so they try to mask the pain, so they figure they mask it by changing laws. The king wanted a divorce. Oh, man. So he changed the law by getting rid of it. He got rid of the Pope who interpreted the law. Get rid of him. President selects or nominates Supreme Court justices, okay? President Trump nominated a man who possibly could rule in favor of him because he's under investigation. Oh, so America, instead of saying, let's pass out condoms, okay? No, don't talk about not having sex. Let's just pass out condoms. Let's not tell the people that it's immoral to do these things. Let's talk about contraceptives. Let's not tell a man who wants to be a woman, you can't be that because that's a mental illness situation. No, let's allow him to change himself into a woman. The book of Judges. Yes, the book of Judges. The book of Judges, or Judges meaning Shaphat, okay? What's the problem here? Joshua is dead. And what did he not do? He didn't leave a leader. So the Bible says everybody did what was right in his own eyes. Chapter 21. This is too deep for me. Is it too deep for me? The United States is judges on steroids. Judges. God didn't select kings. He selected judges. Yeah, Joshua, blessings to you. Joshua Reese, come on, man. Stay with me. I'm almost done. I'm at the end of my rant. The judges governed. The judges vindicated. The judges punished. The judges exhorted authority. That's what the judges did. God put them there for a reason. All right. Why? Because there was a cycle of 7 that the children of Israel went through, and we go through that in America. What are the cycle of 7? We call it. Here it is. The people of Israel worshiped false gods. Okay? What happened? Israel gets sold to another people. What happens next? Israel cries out to God. What happens next? God raises up a judge. What happens next? The judge brings about salvation. What happens next? The land has rest. What happens next? The people worship false gods. Anybody seeing any of this? Wash, rinse, and what? Put it in the comments. That's what's happening here. It's like America, what we call a double recession. It's a double recession. There were 33 recessions, y'all, in America since, 1854. 33 of them. But there was only one depression since Roosevelt. There was only one. But there was 33 recessions in America. Why? Wash, rinse, and repeat. Yeah. I got money. I got a job. There's goods and services. I lose my job. I can't buy the goods and services. They start lowering the prices of the goods and services so that I can buy it. And I'll buy some, but I can't afford it after a while. And before you know it, we slip into a recession. So how do we come out of it? The king says, I need to stimulate the economy so money that just pops out of nowhere, because the money, you have to go to that show I did, the money is magically appears. Okay, that's why you see this dollar here. It's got a split here. It's got tape on it because I had to do an analogy of how this dollar is fiat and is worth nothing. Why is it worth nothing? Because America just prints it on a promise, and there's nothing backing it. Understand? Back in the day, you can walk in the bank and present the fiat, and the bank will give you gold. Back in the day, because it was backed by. That's why back in the day when you would give them gold, they bite on it. Is this real? Yeah, this is good stuff right here. Because it don't die away. It can't burn up. It is divisible. All right, and it is plausible. It can be carried. Okay, so it's portable. All these things. That's what gold is. All right. So then they said we can't do this. We can't afford to do this because all of the nations are trying to pull their money out of America. So Nixon said, no more. Took us off the gold standard. We're gonna give you this fiat, but we're gonna promise it that it's worth something, and that's why it's called a promissory note. Oh, judges, right? I mean, and look at it. Look at the pattern. The people worship false gods. Israel got sold to people. Israel cried out to God. Then God raised up Othniel, raised up Ehud, that left-handed hero. Then he raised up Shamgar. Okay, he saved Israel from the Philistines. Then he raised up Deborah. Right? She was the judge. I call her the Wonder Woman of judges because she had, remember that incident with the hammer and the head? Yeah, that's Deborah. And then he raised up Gideon, all right, clothed by the Spirit of the Lord. Gideon led 300 of them suckers. He said, go there and lap up the water. If you lap them up like a dog, y'all know the story. Then he sent Tola, then sent Jair, then God sent Jephthah, then sent Ibzan, then sent Elon, and then sent Abdon. Wash, rinse, repeat. And then he sent Samson. Oh, man. Anybody seen any of this? How do we know? Watch this. It says, Now, after the death of Joshua, it came to pass that the children of Israel asked the Lord, saying, who shall go for us against the Canaanites first to fight against them? Joshua didn't give them a leader. He just died. And the Lord said, Judah shall go up. Behold, I have delivered. Judah shall go up, and I have delivered the land unto his hand. Send Judah first. Who comes from Judah? God was setting them up even way back here and preparing them for the descendant of Judah. He was preparing them. They ain't know. Send Judah first. Judah and Simeon, his brother. Oh, it went on and on. And then Benjamin failed. Joseph failed. Zebulun failed. Asher failed. Naphtali failed. Dan failed. And then the angels announced a judgment on the people. And then the judgment was described to them. And then the enemy was left to test them. Oh, man. And Othniel came on the scene. Wash, rinse, and repeat. The United States of Sodom and Gomorrah. That is my book that I'm writing. Whew. Tonight I'm talking about Surviving Transitions, a book by Joyce A. Graham on a show sometime tonight. And tomorrow I'm asking the question, why you need to write a book. Why should you write a book? All y'all got a story to tell, and you need to tell your story. I have the great Tonil Jackson going to be on my show at 5 o'clock to talk about why. This is important, y'all. Saints of the Most High, you need to be in your word, the law. This is God's law. It is not a law of restrictions. You can do this and you can't do that. And you should, that. When you look at it that way, that's why you don't want to read it, because it looks like a book of you can and cannot do. There's so much freedom when you get into this. There's so much joy when you get into this. There's so much love when you get into this. But you can't see that part because you have blinders on. You have spiritual cataract. But study the law so that you cannot or will not be deceived. That $20 bill that's given to the Secret Service, because that was their first act, was not to watch the president, but to make sure that you don't counterfeit this. They were told to pay attention to the real 20, not the phony 20. You can't spend a whole lot of time on a whole bunch of phony 20s because they just different here and different there. No, you're going to drive yourself crazy. But pay close attention to the real McCoy, so when somebody slip you a phony one, you spot it 5 seconds in. You say, that's phony. How you know that's phony? Because I spent 2 weeks looking at the real 20. Oh, man. So people are coming to y'all with some phony, false doctrine, and you're like, oh, yeah, you're right. But you didn't read the real one. And I keep telling y'all a story of Jeremiah, of the book of, what's his name? Hananiah. Y'all remember that story? Hananiah was a false prophet, and he even fooled Jeremiah. He fooled him. And Jeremiah was like, hey, man, prophet, you are a man of God. And God said, I ain't sent that man. I did not send that man. I did not. He's a false prophet. I didn't send it to y'all. And he got you fooled too, Jeremiah? No. Tell him at the end of the day, he going to be dead. Oh, man, I don't know. I might have my book. What book is it? I don't know. It's in there. And Hananiah died like God said. Don't have a Hananiah spirit, people of God. Study the scriptures, and then do me a favor. If you can, tonight, if you're able to, why don't you read the Constitution of the United States? Just take a look at it. You don't have to be a lawyer. Just read it. Read the articles. Read the preamble. Read the beginnings of your history. You live here. You should know. How is it that foreigners know more about America than you do? and they come over here, and the United States allow them to not have to pay taxes. They get a bank loan for a business and open that liquor business in your neighborhood and don't pay no taxes on it. Why do you think you can walk into these stores and buy a bag of chips for 99 cents and you paid 99 cents for it? Why didn't you pay $1.06? Because the proprietor, he ain't got to pay no tax. And he put a business in your neighborhood and you complaining. Ain't no black businesses. Why? He know about the rights of the people than you do. Yeah. Janice Hobson, blessings to you. You're so welcome. Read the Constitution. Don't just study the Word of God. You think Jesus, all he did was just study the Torah? The script, you think that's all he did? You think he didn't know anything about the Roman Empire? You don't think he knew anything about the Grecian? Okay, he spoke Greek, Hebrew, Aramaic. He knew all of the languages. He knew it. He was multilingual, and he knew all about the Sanhedrin. He knew all about them. He knew about them. Why do you think he was able to dictate what they said, and he decided to be quiet on some other things? He knew it. So how is it that you say you allowed the people, the scripture says, let this mind be in you, which is also in Christ Jesus. Christ was not a fool. He didn't just, look at his Sermon on the Mount. Look at, I mean, come on. We're lazy. And we keep saying the man got us down. Now, you're supposed to be the man. The man got me down. You the man. You're the woman. Okay? Start your own businesses. Become an entrepreneur. Go down there and register your business. And allow the Lord to use your gift to make some money. They doing it out there. You can't do it. That's a cop-out. So tune in tomorrow and we talk about it a little bit more. I hope you got something out of this show. And I told you I was going to be long. It's an hour, 30 minutes. Actually, I've gone longer on some shows that, man, I wasn't even talking about all this stuff. Yeah, absolutely. Yes, sir, Joshua Reese. Judges, not kings. All right? I'm going to say this one last time. God did not establish kingship on the earth. He established up there kingship, because notice how he said, I set you up as a theocracy, meaning God ruled. So the people says, we want a king, and God rejected them. Remember, Joshua? God rejected them. They says, we want a king because other nations got kings. God didn't set up those kings in those other nations. And God says, but what's wrong with me? Well, we want kings, and God says, all right, I'll give you what you want. But here's what this king is getting ready to do to you. And they says, we don't care. We want him. And God gave them Saul. King Saul. Wash, rinse, and repeat. But God is going to return the people back to judges. Why? Because he told you, you will, not king over these people. He says you are going to judge the people, and you are going to be even judging the angels. Did you not read that? Somebody says, well, he says we're kings and priests. Oh, Lord, eh? Yeah, he said that for a particular reason. It's because y'all established it and then set it up, and he let you set it up. Then, okay, I got to speak your language in order for you to understand. So let me speak your language. You want a king? I'm going to give you kings. And I'm going to make you the kings. But when it's all over, I'm going to present to you the king of kings. Oh, got to go, y'all. This is I had hair when I started the show. Well, ain't nothing up there now. God, I thank you for your presence. I thank you for your blessings. I thank you for the people of God who are here. I thank you for the judges. You've established a system. You've put people in, men in, and you're taking them down. Kings and potentates. You put them up and you took them down. And the heart of the king is in your hand. And you are an amazing constructor and writer up a blueprint that we can live by. We see the blueprint. You showed it to us. The scriptures call it mysteries. And you said you didn't even show it to the principalities or the angels. You didn't show it to them, but you showed it to us. And we thank you for showing us the mysteries. We see the end of the book. We notice something, God. Looks like we win. And then you said, encourage one another in these things. So that's what I'm doing. Strengthen me, oh God, as you strengthen the people of God here who are still here. And help us, God, to live by your word. By your word. In Jesus' name. Amen and amen. Hit the share button if you can. Thank you for staying on this long. Deatrice, blessings to you. Amber Rogers, blessing. Lena Wright, I'm beating my chest. Ron Mills, blessings to you. Dr. Joshua Reese, blessings to you. Ron Kelly, that's another one of my beating hearts. Shantae Charles, my fact checker, and Andrew Rose, and there's about 3 others that I can't see. All of you, I speak a blessing over your life. In Jesus' name, Janice Hobsons, I love you, and Tommy Haygood, blessings to you. Many of you came in, I just didn't see you anymore. Kenny Troy, I speak a blessing over your life. Lynn, who else is that? Simmons, I see. Blessings to you. Donald Smith, especially you and Sister Thompson. Blessings to you. All right. Got to go. Got to prepare for another show tonight. Brentic Richardson II. You was late. Be kind and rewind. But I thank God for you and our friendship. He and I messed around in the inbox. That brother really have a lot of knowledge. Y'all get to know Brentic. He's a good man. God has blessed him with wisdom. He's a young man, but he sure got an old soul. Love y'all. We'll see you again tonight and tomorrow. Pray for America. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. But especially pray for America that they, I would say return to God, but this Constitution was never about God. It was about freedom from oppression from England and setting up a new freedom, and all that was happening while they had slaves. So I pray that America, I can't say return to God, but that they get to know him. Amen. Sharon Young, amen to you. Yes. Sir Walter Jones Show. Hit the share button.